Click on the button again. The progress. Oh, it says that it might be working. Let me refresh YouTube. I think it's working. I think we might actually be live.
Well, now you got that recorded, so congratulations.
There we go. All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 58 of the Future Belongs to Creators. We are back, and today we're talking about a step-by-step guide to creating a minimum viable income, specifically starting with where you want to be and working backwards. Barrett has made a spreadsheet. We're going to get into all of that, but a little red, yellow, green to kick to kick things off. Barrett, how you doing?
I am green. I had a relaxing weekend, hung out with my son. Let's see, what else did I do? Did some chores around the house. Mostly just kind of took it easy. And I've been trying to rest a lot more on the weekends, especially since there's not really anything to do anyways, which has led to better Mondays, especially if I get to bed early enough on Sunday night. And so I got some decent sleep, not great sleep. My kid still wakes up at like 5:30 in the morning, which is normal, but started the week by writing. And I'm feeling good. I'm excited about walking you through a spreadsheet. It's not the greatest spreadsheet in the world, but I do love thinking in spreadsheets. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Nathan Barry. Happy birthday to you. This is your birthday song. It doesn't last that long. Hey!
Oh man. Thank you, Barrett. That's so kind.
You're welcome. How you doing today?
I'm good. Probably green, maybe a hint of yellow. It's pouring rain here today. I don't know what is with this. I was going to say spring. It is officially summer now. It should be sunny and warm and all of that. It's not. Let's see. I also had epic plans for my birthday that totally got canceled. So we were going to go to a friend's lake cabin, or friend's parents' lake cabin up in northern Idaho. And we obviously, we're not going to fly commercially in this time with a whole bunch of people, and it would have been a really long drive. And so I was like, okay, it's my 30th birthday. We're going to splurge. And so we chartered a flight up there, which would have been about double what it cost each person individually. So it was more expensive, but not insane. So we had this whole thing planned, and then like 2 hours before we were supposed to leave on the flight, we get a text message that the high school kid who helps out around our farm, and we've had him through, working for the last couple of months as the pandemic or last maybe month and a half as the pandemic has, gotten better, case counts has gone down. Anyway, he's like, hey, my brother just tested positive for COVID, and I've been hanging out with my brother. And I was thinking like, okay, we were just outside, so that's probably fine. And then I was thinking like, no, of what like activities we'd been doing, he and Hillary had been working a bunch in the garden and like sharing tools this week. And I was just like, shoot, no, we can't do that. So anyway, I was like calling the charter company with an hour and a half to go and be like, hey, can we postpone? And they were super cool about it. And they were like, hey, thanks for giving us a heads up. Thanks for being responsible. So we're going to do birthday trip some other time, maybe in a couple weeks, maybe next year. So, but anyway, it's been good hanging out, getting work done. It's the end of the quarter around here. It's the end of the quarter everywhere, but
it is
at ConvertKit that matters because we always try to push to hit our goals. So that was long, but that's how I'm doing. And thank you for everyone in the chat. Teddy, Emily, Noah, Chris, everybody for the birthday wishes. It's good to hang out with you all.
Well, I just want you to know that I bet like for part of the day, you were like, man, Barrett hasn't said happy birthday to me. Like he doesn't even know or care about me. I mean, I'm 30, like it's my big day. And I just want you to know that I saved it for that moment. And I'm very proud of myself.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate it. And I can tell that you're very proud of yourself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was thinking, and then I promise we'll get into talking about our actual topic. But you posted a photo of your son Ev in our Slack channel earlier, and just made me think like, Well, you moved into a new house in January,
Mm-hmm.
and normally by this time of year we would have hung out a bunch.
Several times, yes.
Yeah, I just saw the photo, and I was like, your living room is in the background and everything. I was like, oh man, I want to hang out with Barrett in that living room with that kid. So hopefully sometime soon. But anyway, I appreciate you bringing the energy on, even though it's just on a Zoom call.
I almost wore like a hat and party glasses and stuff, but anyways, that's for another day.
Man.
Okay. For today's topic, we were talking. It's like, all right, we went to twice weekly, really just one major topic a week. And the intention behind that was to have some deeper dive episodes where we could like prepare a little bit more. I won't claim that we prepared weeks in advance for this one. However, I have been trying to think about kind of deeper dive topics, case studies, things like that we can really get into. And we talk a lot about things like minimum viable income, conversion rates and other things like that, but it's usually just in passing. We'll like mention it when we're talking about another topic. So today, what I thought we could do is start with an income number. That would be like what the entrepreneur, what the creator takes home from their business, and then back up all the way to viewers per post or episode published, viewers, readers, whatever, listeners, and just show you some math so that maybe if you're just getting started, or maybe if you're in the middle of your business and you just haven't done this kind of math before, you can see what it looks like to back your way into what kind of habits you need to build in your business in order to earn the kind of income you want to earn. So there's all these studies. I don't know how they got to the final data, but the studies basically say that while your possessions and things like that might grow when you grow your income beyond $70,000 a year, your level of happiness does not. And so there's like this minimum viable income for happiness level that is $70,000 a year. And above that, it's nice. And there are nice to have things, but really you're talking about, the privileges of life versus do you as a psychological being feel better about it. So we're going to start with minimum viable income of $70,000 today coming from your business. And just to equate that to what that looks like monthly, it's about $5,800 a month. And we're not going to get into taxes and all things like that. That would be useful. And maybe we'll do an episode on just like thinking through not how to do your taxes, because that we are not qualified for, but thinking about your income related to taxes in your business.
And the whole business side of it. That would be good for a future episode. So for this, you're looking at 70K as basically the equivalent as if you made that in a salary from a job. Like, how do you get to the same number? So maybe are you thinking after basic business expenses, but you haven't yet taken out taxes or any of that?
Exactly. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to share my spreadsheet on the screen. If you're listening by audio, we're going to try and walk you through this in a way that will make sense on audio. And then if you want to come back and watch the YouTube version later, this stuff will be on the screen the whole time so that you can take a look at it. So here's the deal. I'm going to probably zoom in a little bit. Magic. Okay.
Look at that.
I don't want to give it all away at first. So I want to start with the money piece here. And we're going to add some commentary in between about like how you might do these kinds of things. It's not just going to be numbers, but as you can see, I've started here with the $70,000 income and I worked backwards. Normally you would work down a spreadsheet. We started at the bottom and worked up. You might even say we started from the bottom and now we're here, or we will be here.
Oh man, if you don't get that reference, then go browse Spotify until you do.
Yes. Okay, so to your point on expenses, this would be totally variable, and maybe we'll just share this template or something afterwards so that you can edit it for some of your real numbers. But I said on $70,000 a year income, you should be able to run your business for $30,000 or less a month. And so I think about that as something like, I don't know, $1,000 a month for an assistant. You've got your website hosting, you've got ConvertKit or another email tool, but probably ConvertKit. You've got, I don't know, your landing page, your e-commerce software, which soon can be ConvertKit as well. Whatever your typical business expenses are would be included here. And I think this is a pretty conservative estimate for this level of business. I think you should be able to run a creative business on that amount of expenses a month for the most part. So if you back that out, then your total revenue just means all the dollars that your business earns, would be about $100,000 a year minus your $30,000 of expenses gives you that net income of $70,000. So you can see that broken down throughout the monthly calculations here too, if that's helpful to you. So $100,000 a year, a six-figure business. Sometimes you hear that term. And
big milestone.
Yes, it is a big milestone. The other thing I want to say about this though is, we have a decent number of peers in the software space, as well as our friends and peers in the creator space. And something that I want to highlight about the six-figure business thing is it is a massive milestone. And 6 figures of a business, 7 figures of a business often does not mean what you think it means.
Right.
And the reason why is that it doesn't highlight expenses. And so if you take just one thing away from this podcast, it would be thinking about your business in terms of the bottom line. So Nathan, I don't know if you have experience with this, because I think we both tend to be pretty specific about what we're trying to actually earn. But do you have any experiences either working with or having friends who have thought in terms of top line instead of bottom line?
Yeah, I think the place that I see this the most is when people start talking about launches. There's this tendency where someone's like, "Oh, I did a 6-figure launch or a 7-figure launch," and you'll see that, especially as you hang out on the fringe of like this internet marketer space. If anyone's done that, I'm sorry, but that part of the internet exists. And you'll hear people saying like, "Oh, I did a 7-figure launch or something." But if you dive in, what you'll often find is what they took home is maybe really quite small, because they might be paying out a 50% affiliate commission, or sometimes even higher, right? If it's a very affiliate heavy launch, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a 60 or 70% affiliate commission in some of these products. And so then you're like, okay, so say we did let's just go with 50%. So you do a $100,000 launch over the course of a week. 50% of that right away is just going out to affiliates. And then you're looking at credit card processing fees as well. And that'd be split. So, there's 3.5%. So now we're down to, roughly $45,000. And you're chipping away at it like that. And then, okay, we hired a graphic designer to build it out. We paid our marketing costs, all of these other things. And it works down. And then I'm trying to think what other expenses would be in there, but you've got all your software and everything else. But I would say it's really common if you hear someone talk about, I launched this product and I made $100,000 from it, that they took home maybe 25 to 40,000, somewhere in there. That if I were making assumptions, that's what I would assume if it was an affiliate launch. And team costs would be another really big thing in there. Now, there are plenty of people who are doing things as a solo business, or them and an assistant or a VA or something like that, and they drove all that traffic themselves. Then, ads. Yeah. Ads would be another thing. All that retargeting, it's so important. It drives sales and it's profitable, but it's expensive. So you do end up with people who ran a launch with, 90% margins. But I would just say, be skeptical when you hear those numbers. Or it's not even be skeptical. It's just know the full picture of running a business. It would be like if someone said, "Oh, ConvertKit's doing $20 million a year. So what, you guys take home, I don't know, 18 million?"
Yeah, it's like $5 million a piece.
Yeah. And the reality is just so far from that. ConvertKit's a very profitable, successful business. And, we run between 10 and 20% profit margins, depending on the month and how aggressive we're spending and all of that. So it's just important to keep in mind.
Yep. So I wanted to highlight that because we're really talking about kind of a lean business here. We're talking about a business where you haven't expanded into ads. You don't have a big affiliate network. It's really like you and maybe an assistant as a solo creator. And it's kind of like organic. You're not paying in order to get the sales that you're getting in this business that we're talking about. And I just want to highlight that because if you were going to use affiliates or you were going to use ad spend, you would need to change your expenses here to make sure that you were planning to earn enough top line revenue. Okay, so the next thing we did was a lot of businesses, they have more than one product. product portfolio. And a product portfolio is another thing. I'm going to bookmark that. That is another thing we should come back to at a future date to do an episode on. But think of it like this. There are different segments of people in your audience. Different segments want to buy different things because they have different problems or different needs related to whatever your topic or your business is. So you might think of it like if you're teaching fly fishing, there are people who have never fly fished before and they just need like the basics. And then there are your experts who want to get back in the backcountry and find like the hidden stream with the perfect fish and everything. And they will pay you for different stuff. And so your products, ideally, as you break them down, will cater to different segments of your audience. Nathan, I think you did a good job of this, where originally you catered to mobile apps and web apps and whatever other things that you did at the time.
Yep.
But different people bought those things. Sometimes there was overlap, but they served different needs. So in this case, we're going to say you have an entry-level product at $29 a month, and we'll call it a mid-range product because really high range is like thousands of dollars. So mid-range product of about $149 per sale.
Yeah. And so just to be clear on both of those, you're going per sale pricing. So this is not recurring revenue. This is one-time revenue, but because we have an audience that's continually growing, people are coming in and people are leaving, but we're predicting to be able to make this number of sales every year.
Yep. Every year. That's right. So I did a rough breakdown and I said maybe about 65% of people buy the lower priced one of all your purchases and about 35% buy the higher priced one. That's going to be a ballpark. You're going to have to see your baselines in your business, but I think it's pretty decent in terms of assumptions. Now, here's what's interesting, right? We ended up with about 63% of total purchases going to the lower price and about 36% in this specific model after setting those benchmarks. But 75% of revenue comes from that $149 product, even though only 36% of buyers chose that one. So you have 503 total purchases of this $149 product across a year that generates 75% of your revenue, compared to 862 purchases of the $29 product generating just $25,000 a year in revenue. Nathan, I know you have a whole diatribe you could go on related to pricing, but just talk for a minute about how and why this highlights the importance of pricing.
Yeah. So this is something that people are always surprised by, right? Because they're thinking like, oh, if I have product A and product B, and they should make equal amounts of money. And that's almost never the case. Or you do something where it's like, okay, if I have product A and then product B, and product B is twice the price of product A, then actually at this point, people are like, wait, what will happen? I don't know. Is it going to make half the sales at twice the price and make the same amount of money, or what? And this example that you have listed out there is basically what I see almost every time, where the higher priced product makes a lot less total sales. Like, in this case, you've got only 36% of the sales. I think that's pretty accurate. If you were to go to 3 products, then the top product is going to dip as a percentage of sales even more. But then you're like, oh, you got $29, you got $149. And actually, when I first looked at the spreadsheet, even though I knew the math, I was like, yeah, you got one product and you got another one that's a couple times as expensive, and it's actually a lot more than it's 5 times as expensive. Mm-hmm. But people don't tend to think in those terms. And so then they realize, oh, this higher priced product, of course it made significantly more money when you actually break down. And that's what I've seen in business after business, that the higher priced product brings in so much more revenue than the lower priced product. Not that you should only have that, but that it makes a really big difference.
Yep, totally. I'm just going to add one little thing here to make it a little bit easier on us here in just a minute. Oops, forgot a parentheses. It's like code. You can't forget anything or else it'll break. Okay. So that's on pricing. Pricing is important. Keep that in mind. It'll help you make a lot more money with less effort, which is the point of the whole thing. All right. So you've got these 2 products. You've got an entry-level product at $29, a higher price product at $149. You need to make a total of 1,365 sales throughout the year, which per month, if we want to have like a steady business coming in, without big fluctuations, would be about 114 sales a month. Now, if you don't like thinking in those terms and you rather do a big launch and sell it all at once, that works too. You could make this living maybe in 2 launches or something throughout the year if you wanted to. I like to think in terms of consistent effort because I find it easier to maintain habits than have these big pushes and then letdowns and big pushes. So to get 114 sales a month, what needs to happen? Well, I'm going to work backwards through what would typically be a conversion funnel, basically going up the funnel, starting with emails, all the way up to how many videos or blog posts would you have to put out. So let's say that you're of the people who open your emails. So this isn't important, right? Only the people who open your emails can buy your products. I'm going to repeat that real quick. Only the people who open your emails can buy your products. I guess maybe if they just visited your site directly from social media or something, they might. But if we're talking specifically email, they've got to open it before they can click on the link before they can buy it. So I said here that 15% of people who open will buy. I think you could get that north of that. You might even be able to get closer to 30 or 40% if you have a really targeted launch that's very specific to your email subscribers, or if you do a recurring sequence that hits them at the perfect point in their customer journey. But I felt like 15% was conservative and maybe accurate for just kind of getting started. So if you want to make 1,365 sales throughout the year, which gets us to our income number, you need 9,100 email opens, right? And if you look at that monthly, you need about 758 email opens. We'll just call it 750 email opens every month, 760 to get there throughout the year. And let's say your open rate is about 32%. I picked 32% for a very specific reason.
Why is that reason, Barrett?
Every month, we publish a deliverability report at ConvertKit. We have a team called Compliance, Billing, and Deliverability, and they handle everything spam and fraud prevention. They handle email deliverability. They do consultations with customers to make sure that your delivery and open rates are high. And in our report last month, and this has been pretty consistent for a while, we had a 32% global open rate on the ConvertKit platform. So if you look at like, maybe your marketers who like buy email lists or things like that. We got into that a little bit on Friday. You might see open rates in the like single digits, 8, 10%, maybe.
Yeah. Or even lower.
Yeah. So 32% across the platform, sending over 1 billion emails a month is pretty incredible.
Yep.
So we felt like that was pretty fair here to pick an open rate that's consistent with the platform. I feel like we could get into open rates and like what drives that. Maybe we should. Let's just talk about it for a minute. What drives open rates, Nathan?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is the relationship that you have with the reader, right? Everyone is getting into, okay, if I put an emoji in my subject line, will the open rate go up? If I have one weird trick to, I don't know what, something like that, right? Then the open rates are going to go up. And so they're trying to optimize, how can I get the highest open rate on this one email? And actually the people who get the best open rates are the ones who say, how can I deliver the most value over the long term in this relationship? And so how can I write the best content, give away the best resources, and tell the best stories? And so those are the things where you have to realize, you have to change that mindset. Open rate is not a short-term metric. It is a long-term metric. And you should say, how should I optimize for this over the next 12 months? And then really what it comes back to is produce the highest quality content and get the right people on the list. So don't worry about getting the most people on the list. We're focus on getting the people who, are going to be the most engaged, who are the right fit, and who love the kind of content that you want to put out.
Yeah, I love that. I think, Seth Godin always says, will they miss you when you're gone? Or if you didn't show up tomorrow, would they miss you? Mm-hmm. And I think the best tactic I have for getting people to open your emails is not to write a good subject line. It's for them to trust you so much that they are excited that your email is about to arrive. Because Tuesdays is when you send emails, and they know Tuesdays is when you send emails, and they're waiting for your email before it even hits their inbox. Because I have news for you. It doesn't fucking matter what the subject line is if they're waiting on it already. That's the truth. But for people who aren't waiting for it, that's when you have to start trying to trick them into opening it so that they'll engage. So Both work. I mean, certainly writing headlines is a valuable skill. Writing subject lines is a valuable skill. And if you focus on building that relationship and trust, people will want to open it regardless of what the headline says, because they know that you're interesting and you provide value.
So just to give a quick example of that, when I was getting started in this whole world, I followed Chris Guillebeau really a lot, and he published every Monday and Thursday. I know he had an email list. For whatever reason, I wasn't on it. And I knew that he published every Monday and Thursday at, I think 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And I would go check his site at that time. Like I was so eager to read whatever he was putting out on how to grow your audience, or, how to earn a living as an indie creator, that I was just like going and checking at that time. And so with his blog post titles, whatever, it didn't matter, right? What mattered is that he was delivering fantastic content every week or twice a week at the same time. And I was super eager to that. So if, assuming he had more readers like me, we represented the group that, opened 100% of his emails, and so if someone was like, oh, you couldn't possibly have an open rate above 50% or something like that, it's like, actually you could, if you just focus on the true fans.
Yeah. And just even seeing this average open rate on our platform, it means there's a lot in average by nature. It means there's a lot of people above that. There's just as many people above it as there are below. So we know that you can go a lot higher than this if you have a highly engaged audience. Okay. So here's what I'm doing here. For a total opens, which gets you to a total number of purchases using these conversion rates, you have to have email subscribers in the neighborhood of 30,000, basically. We're going to round to 30,000. You can see the specific number in the spreadsheet. But if 32% of people open your emails and you need about 9,000 of them to open in order for 15% of them to buy, well, you need about 30,000 email subscribers. Now, 30,000. Let's just stop for a minute, because I realized I could just blow past that. And a lot of people would
be like, a lot.
Oh my God, no. Well, it is a lot. And we know based on our platform, there aren't a ton of customers by percentage who use our platform who have more than that. So I want to talk about a couple of things here. First of all, this is a simplistic model. It's just meant to teach concepts. Secondly, if we broke it down by month, which is a little deceiving, so don't take this on face value. But what in the bloody...
Spreadsheets.
Backwards, yes. Okay, so if you broke it down by month, and if you were only trying to do this monthly, you would only need about 2,500 email subscribers. Now, here's where that breaks, right? You have to have enough stuff that people can buy things from you more than once. You have to have enough products where they can buy from you more than once. But if you have a good product portfolio where the same person can buy from you multiple times during the year, then you can reduce to a much smaller number of email subscribers. And so, it goes back and forth. If you have one product, you're going to need more email subscribers because the same people are not going to buy from you over and over. If you have a recurring subscription product, or if people can buy more than one thing from you, well, you can really lower that number down, right, to get the number of purchases that you're looking for. And so this is where, like you were saying earlier, Nathan, if you have some kind of subscription product, that can be a really valuable way to build a much more sustainable business that doesn't rely on these big pushes or big audiences and then come back down and earn nothing for a while and back and forth.
Yep. So the way that I would think about this is you need 2,371 people every month who are eligible to be pitched your product.
Yep.
And so it's not necessarily that number times 12 to get to the 28,000. It's really that they need to have not yet purchased it, assuming, like most products, it's something that you buy once and you're done with, or you buy once and you wouldn't purchase on repeat. Or, maybe they were pitched it last time. Maybe they were in that 68% that didn't open at previous time that you pitched it. And they can, now be in this other category. Or maybe they opened, but then they didn't actually buy. And so if you go to that number, then you're going to end up actually with quite a bit smaller group of people rather than needing the full 28 or 30,000.
That's right. And so there's a lot of different ways to do this, right? One way would be to say, okay, well, if I burned through my whole existing audience, which you almost never have, that's one thing you have to realize is even if you've launched a product before, someone who didn't buy that time might buy next time. because maybe it's the right timing for them. And this is where, for a later date, getting into automated email sequences that are based on what your customers want and what they're telling you about who they are can be way more powerful than just email blast, email blast, email blast. But again, we're trying to keep it simple here. So let's say what you were trying to do here is to add this many new email subscribers per month, right? Because that creates new audience for you. And that's possible. It's a lot, but it's certainly possible. We see people add this and many more than this subscribers every month. If you converted site traffic to email subscriber at about a 3% rate, which is okay. It's not amazing. It's not bad. I've seen some people go as low as 1% is kind of what they're hoping for, but 3% is pretty decent. You would need just under 80,000 people a month coming to your website in terms of unique users. Because again, you can measure total traffic all you want, but you have to have an individual follow this path. So I like to measure my traffic in unique users because that's the total number of people who can or are eligible to become email subscribers. So site traffic of about 80,000 a month. I'm just going to run through the rest of this, Nathan, and then we can talk through kind of how you get this kind of traffic. I then assumed, let's say you publish twice a week. This could be blog posts. This could be YouTube videos. It could be podcast episodes, whatever it is that you make, you put it out there twice a month or twice a week, sorry, which gives you a little over 100 published pieces per year. That habit, we're going to come back to it, but that habit might be the single most important crux to this whole thing, right? All right. So let's say you put those out. How much traffic do you need per post to get what we're talking about here? Well, we're showing for the total year, you need about 9,000 views, listens, whatever. In podcast, it would be downloads. On YouTube, it would be views. On your website, it would be reads of your article. Or on Medium, it would be reads of your article or traffic to that article. 9,000 people per article. Now, again, that sounds like a lot, but we're talking about a mature business here. I mean, this business would be sustainable for you could run this forever. So it might take you 5 years to get here to this point, but 9,000 people trafficking to a blog post or watching a YouTube video, that's pretty reasonable, I think, for a sustainable business where you know your topic, you're publishing regularly. And that's on your site, remember. So this is people on your site. You put your video on your site and this many people come there because usually only on your site will people then become email subscribers. There are some exceptions to that. So let's say you also publish elsewhere. You publish out on YouTube or you publish out in the podcast or whatever. And let's say 40% of people who watch on YouTube or listen in the podcast app, that's how many people end up going to your site to check out a thing. Or maybe how many people go to your landing page, for example. From the podcast to get a thing that you're giving away. Well, you're going to need quite a few more kind of like raw downloads or raw native views on whatever platform you're publishing on. In this case, about 22,000 to get to that traffic to your site that you're looking for in order to get the email subscribers you're looking for. The one thing I do want to say about that is if you can efficiently send YouTube viewers, for example, to a landing page, you can get conversion rates as high as 40% sometimes on that. Yeah. So the math can change a little bit. Remember that the math is going to be specific to your business. I'm just trying to show you a model, not the model. So this is one way to look at it. So what I like about this is by working backwards from starting with the end in mind, you could say today, okay, my goal is to get to the point, number one, where I built a habit where I'm publishing twice weekly. And number two, where every one of those things I'm publishing, let's say on YouTube as a YouTuber, is getting 22,000 views. Okay, that is my goal right now. 104 posts this year, 104 videos this year, rather, 22,000 views per video. That is a very tangible thing to work towards that can then lead you down this funnel that gets you to the money that you're looking for. All right, let's talk some commentary and insights here from this.
Yeah. So first, I love this. And I love that you're pointing out that this is a model. It doesn't have to be the model or how it has to work, but this is how you and I think. This is how actually pretty much all of the successful creators that we know think. They've got spreadsheets mapping out, okay, where is the traffic coming from? I'm trying to think, not to pick on our friend John Schultz too much, but so he runs this site with his wife Dana called Minimalist Baker, And John is like the behind the scenes master of it all, and Dana does all the real work of producing the content. And John, he's the kind of person, right, where they've got a ton of traffic and he's optimizing, okay, this traffic coming in through here. How do I get the conversion rate up on this? And he's tracking all of those kind of details because he's looking at, to get these averages, he's realizing there's going to be some posts that convert to email subscribers really poorly. But if I can have this other one that converts really well, and if I can do an opt-in specific for that, right, this is the kind of thing exactly that you're looking at. And so we don't want to overcomplicate this because you can totally launch this stuff. You could launch a product and you don't have to have this. But it's when you realize, okay, this is now my map of the full system. And I can pick different parts of it that I'm going to work on and optimize. And it can turn into a lot of great results. Melanie just asked, will you be providing the spreadsheet? Totally. We'll maybe clean it up a little bit and link to a shared version and drop that in the chat and in the show notes.
Okay, so I want to highlight the point you just made. This is what's fun about spreadsheets, okay? So let's say that you do focus on conversion rate on your site and you're able to go from 3 to 5%. Well, what does that do? It doesn't quite probably dropped the traffic needed by 35%.
Yep.
And you went from 22,000 people needing to download your podcast episodes to 13,000 just by going from 3 to 5% site conversion. Okay, now let's go back. Let's change it further down the funnel. Let's say instead of 15% of people who open my email, I can convert 25% of them. So 1 in 4 people who open my emails end up buying something from me. Uh-oh, what did I do? Oh, I didn't formula it. One moment.
Rookie move, Barrett.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, so you go from 9,100 people needing to open your emails to 5,400. So you have levers. Every one of these percentages is a lever. Okay, you have a lever here on number of people that go from YouTube to your website. You have a lever here on number of people who visit your website that become email subscribers. You have a lever here on number of people who open your emails. And you have a lever here on number of people who open your emails that buy your stuff. So what's beautiful about this is that you can optimize every part of it. You could say, let's get to 25% of people who open our emails buying something. Let's get to 40% of people who get our emails opening them. Let's go to 5% of people who visit our site becoming an email subscriber. And more and more and more. And now you've dropped these numbers down to something that's incredibly manageable. But the most important thing in all of this is you can't do any of it unless you're publishing content consistently. And it doesn't matter what your content is. It could be music, it could be blog posts or essays, it could be political commentary, it could be woodworking YouTube videos, it could be anything. So anyways, it gives you all of these points of leverage that you'll be able to check out in the spreadsheet and play with in your business. So Noah asks, uncertainty is higher up the funnel, right? In terms of how much it contributes to income. So let's see, it really depends. One thing I want to highlight is that up here, you have way more people. And so the more you can pull on one of these levers, the more people get entered into everything. So if I were diagnosing my business and I did all this math, and I'm going to back out some of those changes I just did to be more like the original. If I'm diagnosing my issues and I've done this spreadsheet and I see I need 22,000 views per episode that I'm publishing or downloads, well, we could go and we could look at our episodes right now and we'd say, well, we've only got 3,000 downloads per episode. I don't know what our actual downloads are on this show, but let's say we only have 3,000.
Yep.
Well, either I can focus on getting more attention up here to try and fulfill this part of the spreadsheet, or I can move further down the funnel and try and fix stuff down here so that I need fewer downloads per episode. And so the question then becomes, well, which one seems more likely that I can actually achieve that? And in our case, for this podcast, if that's what we were trying to do, I think our leverage would be on creating more attention on the podcast than changing stuff further down the funnel right now, because we know that we have way more potential reach than that. So Noah, to answer your question, I think the answer is it depends on your business and how much leverage you have at each point of your funnel.
So what I love about this and the levers example is that imagine like sitting at a control station or something. And instead of every possible thing imaginable, or like just this unknown of like, I don't have any control. Instead, you're like, okay, I actually have like 10 specific things that I control. And they're like levers or buttons that are in front of you. You're not going to mess with all of them, but you can look at it and say, okay, you know what? This month or this week, this is the lever that I'm going to work on. I'm going to try to move the needle there. And there's a lot that can go into that. So like another one that's available is, let's say we have this clarity, right? Of, okay, we're trying to achieve $100,000, or really we're trying to achieve $70,000 of net income. And so we believe, at a 70% profit margin, we're going to need to be at $100,000. So there's even a lever there. We could be like, okay, could I trim some more expenses? Let's say I can only get that total income up to $90,000. And I'm like, oh, it's not quite there. Okay. Could I run my business on $20,000 a year instead of $30,000 a year? And if so, okay, I'm there at my number. One thing that you'll find, and this is advice that I heard early on, and I was like, that's nonsense, or easy for you to say is how I reacted to it. But now I think differently. And that is that it is easier to earn more than it is to cut expenses and save your way into that level of income. When I first heard that, I was making no money, or maybe like $50 a month from my various side hustles. And so I was like, oh, that's easy for you to say, like, hey, you're successful and all of this stuff. And now I'm like, oh, it's 100% true. And so that's where I would say, know all the levers, but always be trying to increase rather than cut or save your way into better financials.
I love that. Okay. Well, that is the spreadsheet we had for you.
Yeah. I have a few more thoughts. So
keep going.
Let's say you run through that whole spreadsheet and you're like, or you run through an example of it, and maybe you've got 3 months of revenue, or actually, we're about at July 1st, right? So we have 6 months of data, and we're like, okay, I'm not going to make it there. In order to get to my $70,000 income, I would have to double traffic over the next 6 months. And while we love ambitious goals, that might be pushing it. That might be too hard to do, or I would have to increase this conversion rate, right? You can map out what would have to be true in order for me to hit my 2020 income goals. And that might be within reach, or it might be quite a stretch where you're like, look, a lot has to change. So something that I would look into, a couple different options. The first is I would look at, and we brought it up earlier, I'd look at raising your prices. I don't believe necessarily that everyone should raise their prices. I'm not going to give that as blanket advice, but look at it. Maybe ask a couple trusted friends who are further along this journey from you. Should I charge more for this? Should I bump this up? So that'd be the first thing, right? If you could go from 29 to 49, from 149 to 199, what impact would that have? And Barrett, you just changed it in the spreadsheet, and the number of sales that we have to make dropped pretty significantly.
Yep.
The next thing that I would look at is, could I add a second package to one of these products where maybe people are buying it right now for 29? Is there a version of that product that someone would be willing to pay 79 for? Right? Could I add that in? The next one would be, could I add another product that I could sell to the same people? So it's not a replacement for these. It's further down the funnel of what people might buy. It might be like a masterclass where, it's just for your top 20 most engaged people, and it's $500 per person, and it's a 2-day online class. And there you've added thousands of dollars in revenue. It might be coaching where you're just taking on 5 people at a $1,000 a month, a $500 a month retainer, and you're just working with them. It could be a bunch of different things, but those are basically what I'd look at. Is first, see if you could raise your prices. Second, see if you could add premium packages to any product. And then third would be adding another product, specifically a higher end product, or one that might not require like 3 months to write and film a course, and might actually capitalize on all the goodwill and everything that you've already built.
Love it. Great points. Great points. So the spreadsheet will give you a starting point. I dropped a link in the chat. We'll have it in the show notes for you. I would definitely suggest put in real numbers, put in the income you're trying to make, put in your real expenses that you actually have in your business. Pay attention to the formulas. You can always refer back to the original one if you just want to check out the formulas if you break it or whatever. But this should be a useful tool to at least have a basic understanding. of the inputs to your business so that you can see where are the levers for me and which ones do I want to pull to continue growing my income. Okay. Boop-a-da-doo, boop-a-da-doo, boop-a-da-doo-doo-doo-doo. Creator of the day.
Oh man. All right. Stop screen sharing so I can screen share.
My bad.
Though I just realized I'm the host of this meeting, so I could have stopped you from screen sharing. So apparently that's on me. Okay, my creator of the day is actually a friend here in Boise. Her name's Amanda Antilla, and she's a graphic designer, photographer, all of that. This is her Etsy store, and I'm going to drop that in the chat. If you guys would be awesome and go buy some stuff from her, that would be awesome. She's one of these photographers and people working in real life where it's like all the shows that she did, all of the shoots she did got canceled. She just does fantastic stuff. I love all of her prints and everything. But one thing that she did, she's also a great photographer, and it's fun to follow her on Instagram and all that. I'll drop her links. But our coworker Elizabeth has a tiny house, and Amanda just shot it and just did just these beautiful photos of it before it goes on Airbnb. And anyway, I was just thinking about her today because she's just such a talented, well-rounded creator. Like, oh, graphic design, sure, no problem. Digital art, yep, of course. Amazing photography, either portraits or anything else, like easy. And so I'm so impressed with her. And her site is Hello Cherie, and I'll drop all those links.
Love it. I am going to highlight today. I realize we have not highlighted him before, even though we have talked about him before. David Perell.
I always say Perell.
Okay. David Perell. That's what I've said too. David is relatively early in his creator journey, surprisingly, for the amount of reach that he has. 90,000 followers on Twitter and a decent sized audience learning from him about writing. And I highlight him on Twitter because I actually think some of his best stuff is on Twitter. He does a bunch of great writing off the platform, and he has some really good courses on writing as well and resources for that. But I love following him on Twitter for his insight. He talks a lot about the process of writing and creating. And if you are a writer, he would be someone worth following, I think.
Yeah, his stuff is great. I was actually just DMing with him on Twitter this morning. So just talking about different ConvertKit features and all that, because he's been growing his email list super fast on the platform.
Nice.
My resource of the day, I'm going to go with a book that I'm like 2/3 of the way done with. See, I don't have to finish a book before I recommend it, right? It's not a thing. You're like, maybe you should. Hey, I'm well over halfway. And it's Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. If you've read some of her other stuff, there's probably not going to be anything like brand new in it. But I just love more examples and stories and all of those lessons put in a new format. And this is very much in like a business, interpersonal at work, team leadership kind of format. So Dare to Lead is really good. Definitely check it out.
Love it. My resource of the day, I'm just going to keep hitting y'all with educational resources for the times that we live in, because I think it's important. The Hate You Give, moving movie, film. It's definitely worthy of the term film. Like, leave some time before bed after this one, because you'll be thinking a lot about the state of society. I won't say much more than that. Really powerful movie about the after effects of the death of a young Black man. And man, the acting was great. The story was great. It was shot in Atlanta, where I grew up, which obviously is kind of fun. So anyways, well worth watching if you haven't seen it yet. There's also a book by the same name if you prefer reading, which I hear is also great, although I have not read it myself.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thought of the day is income is an output of a lot of different factors. And if you start thinking about your business in terms of the income you want, I think it will become much easier to focus on specific levers you can pull to make that income happen. But first, you have to start with the outcome in mind that you want, which is how much money you want to take home, and work backwards from there. So I hope you'll hop into that spreadsheet and customize it to your business so that you can maybe make some progress that direction.
Sounds good. Thanks for listening.